here we are. We're jumping into Game 2 with on GSL Daybreak between Purdue University and the University of Regina. Oh,
Yep.
Move my mouse around too much. I gotta stop spazzing out. I just want to get these games going.
I know. I'm so excited. There's so many pronouns this week. I'm just absolutely amazed at how many pronouns there are in this week. And I almost could not make it for this cast, so I'm really thrilled that I'm here.
Yes, I'm very happy you're also here. Even though I have started playing random exclusively on the ladder, my Protoss knowledge isn't up to snuff as my other matchups. Even though I did beat a PBT on the ladder and felt so good about it, because I predominantly played Terran for so long, so I know exactly what annoys a Terran versus a Protoss, and that's all I did. And he got very angry with me. He said
that's
very...
the beautiful thing about switching races. You know exactly how to just get into that little like niche where you annoy the hell out of your opponent.
Yeah, it's like
just go for everything that you absolutely hate.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know these technical builds, so I'm just going to do what I think is annoying. And we're actually having a little lag from Murazor. But alright. So in the bottom left position, we have the green Warpaint Zerg Murazor fighting for the Purdue Boilermakers.
And in the top right-hand side, we have Rambus representing Regina, I think, actually. I'm being told by one of their players it's pronounced that way.
My bad.
So hopefully that is the way it is pronounced. I'm not pronouncing it improperly now.
We're stupid Americans.
We are stupid Americans. But, it looks like Rambus is going to be going for the Forge Fast Expand. Pretty common in this matchup to see nowadays, especially on a map like this, where the rush distances would be pretty far. You're not too worried about a lot of Zergling or like Roach all-in pressure.
Oh, I missed some of the dialogue.
Oh, I was just saying that it looked like Rambus was going for that Forge.
No, not you. Murazor and Rambus are talking to each other, and I missed the beginning of it, and Rambus was all trick question, so I completely missed out what's going on. And the second Overlord isn't scouting at all, and it's actually in a weird position, I think. But Rambus is probably just going to try to delay this expansion as fast as possible. He did get some vision on when... Actually, he didn't see when the pool went down, but he has to assume something is going on very soon.
The way that a lot of Protoss players will end up playing this out is they want to block this hatchery, and they realize that, hey, well, I can just block this hatchery in case they are going to try and throw it down pretty early, and if I'm worried that they throw down an earlier pool, then I can just throw down a pylon, make sure that they can't build that hatchery there, and then they go scout the main with their probe to see if they have the gas geyser and whatnot. So yeah. I think that's what he was planning.
It was actually fairly interesting that Murazor sent out, even though he didn't see the Forge Fast Expand, but he scouted for any proxies around his third as he rallied his drone in a very kind of stylistic way. And Rambus even thought that a third was taken, or his natural was taken at the third base.
Interesting decisions. I guess both players just want to play it a little bit safe. And we do finally see that wall-off going down for Rambus. Protoss players do love their wall-offs against Zerg. Oh, so important to make sure you don't get Zergling run-by'd into your main. Oh, the most frustrating thing in the world to have Zerglings in your main.
Now, what I'm a little worried about, and maybe you can help me a little bit, he went Forge, Gateway, Nexus before even getting a cannon. Is that fairly typical?
You know what, I think what happened is, generally, so sometimes you do see Nexus first. That's a pretty risky thing to do, but on a map like this, I think it's safe to go for, say, for example, Forge Gateway and then Nexus, as he did have that probe in Murazor's main. He did see that the spawning pool was just completing. He wasn't probably too worried about any Zerglings incoming in, as we even saw some of the Zerglings were chasing Rambus's probe, so I think it was just more of he saw that you didn't have to be too concerned about anything.
And actually, right now, Murazor is taking a very fast third. He hasn't even gotten a gas yet, and is throwing down this third after verifying that it was a Forge Fast expand. And we have these crazy Zerglings constantly looking for any proxy shenanigans of either proxy starports or any gateways that are coming down.
Yeah, great movement across the map by Murazor as he's playing really absolutely safe, making sure that there is nothing coming in his way that he just will have no idea about. And actually that Overlord that you were talking about coming in from kind of a weird angle, that first Overlord from Murazor, now finally walking through and seeing exactly what's going on at the natural. And I think one key thing that he might be looking for is those gas geysers. He wants to make sure that those gas geysers haven't been taking incredibly fast, as that can be indicative of some really early double Stargate play.
Yeah, and what these Zerglings can also look at is what is actually being researched. Is that Forge moving? Is there going to be a +1 time that's coming soon? How many cannons has Rambus been throwing down to feel safe?
And it looks like Murazor is going to escape with these 2 Zerglings that he has away from these 2 Zealots. Not exactly what I would call an even fight, but Rambus is going to go ahead and retreat with those Zealots, and those Zealots are going to return home, feeling happy that they did a little bit of damage to the Zerg brood. But it looks like the Stalker from Rambus is actually going to go ahead and poke and see exactly what's up with Murazor, see what Murazor is up to.
Yeah,
I think you actually might see the Roachhorn and the Evolution Chamber
over
by the natural.
It could, and that is the big tech switches that Murazor's taken, but Rambus does not know of this third at all yet.
Yeah, it's going to be really important to see. And actually, it looks like Rambus is pulling back his Stalker already. Oh, it looks like he's looking for any hidden expansions. I actually love this play, making sure that maybe the third is not taken in a really hidden and obscure place. Make sure that there's nothing too cheesy going on. So I think this is a good call by Rambus, not doing anything too overcommittal, although I think he will have to be careful, as the Stalker will have to retreat home once Zergling's speed is finished.
Murazor did lose a Overlord. We didn't see it, but that's what happened, and he got supply block real quick, and all he saw was just 2 additional gateways in Rambus's main, and he did not spot the Stargate, which is now halfway completed. And now this Stalker is getting full vision that a third is up, but there's not too many, well, he hasn't spotted it yet, but not too many drones are here. And now he does. So let's see exactly how Murazor wants to respond. A few drones are going to, barely escapes, to see if he's going to bring roaches or lings, but he actually doesn't have, he only has 6 roaches out right now, which should clean this Stalker up fairly simply.
Oh yeah, this Stalker is doomed, and it actually looks like there are 6 gateways down, a very key number for any Protoss player, and as well as a Stargate. So I think that Rambus is going to be going for a very, very strong 2-base pressure, and oh my god, a beautiful timing from this Overlord. He's going to actually see everything, so Murazor is going to actually be able to put 2 and 2 together and see all 6 gateways and the Stargate, so he's going to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and even a 7th gateway just started. So this is going to be a 7-gate kind of +1 push with a Void Ray. So Murazor needs some sort of anti-air, and he is making a few more queens, it looks like. 2 more queens are now in production.
And actually just finishing, so that's going to really help against the Void Ray.
Yeah, just finished. We're making 4 Hydralisks. Hydralisks are also very good against gateway units. And without any Colossus out in the field, Hydralisks feel pretty good about themselves. And it does look like the attack is actually going to come from the north and hit the 3rd base as units are being rallied there next to this proxy pylon.
Yeah, I do like Murazor's positioning of his army, not really keeping it too far. Just as I say that, he starts to move it closer to the natural, but Murazor's kind of keeping it between his natural and his 3rd. He's not really sure exactly when or where the pressure is going to come from. But actually now he does. As
the drone sees
where the army is.
Yeah, not only sees the army, but sees that there is a probe that most likely is throwing down proxy pylons. And we have 2 queens, a lot of roaches, and some hydras. We have some force fields going down. These queens are still able to pick off a little bit on this roaches, but these force fields are extremely deadly to these roaches.
You know, one thing you have to keep in mind is that Rambus actually used a lot of his force fields. He actually only has one force field left. And, you know, he's going to regenerate some of that energy, and pretty soon he will be able to throw down a couple more force fields. But he's going to have to be really careful about how he uses these force fields in the incoming battle, as force fields are really important to do, especially against these Hydralisks that have such a high DPS output. I'm sure a lot of people have heard Hydralisks just eat up the Gateway army, and, you know, Rambus is going to have to be really careful about that.
And it looks like Rambus is now may even poke into the natural, which isn't too much walking distance for the Zerg player, but just to kind of keep Murazor on his toes a little bit.
And he's going to try and knock down these rocks. I think that is going to be a good choice if he does decide to poke up. But it looks like he's not actually going to decide to poke up, so not going to be too huge of a deal. Oh, wow. Rambus taking a very aggressive expansion.
Wow, that is very ballsy to say the least. I'm sure he's going to throw up a lot of cannons here too to make sure that he can keep this. And this is almost like a little contain as well.
Oh, and you know what's actually really scary to me is Murazor's Overlord is just a few feet away from seeing that expansion.
Yep, just out of range. And Murazor's army is actually a little bit out of position, swinging around the backside as Rambus is pumping up straight into the natural.
Uh-oh. This ramp might actually work against Murazor if Rambus decides to actually force field the ramp, and he does force field a little bit, but not quite getting the force fields he needed. Well, actually, no, I think he's actually going to be fine.
This is looking really bad.
On the way. So,
yeah, but we need those roaches out now. We're losing a lot of Overlords. Now is supply blocked for Murazor as most of the army is going down. But the Void Ray does get picked off as more Stalkers are sent in to re-rally. And now the roaches push out and push some of those Stalkers back with no more sentries left to force field. It's a Roach versus Stalker army, and there is no blink technology. Both armies are at +1 attack, and Rambus does decide to pull back a little bit. The +2 of Zerg range is nearly complete, with also getting the groove spines for those Hydralisks. But with no Hydralisks on the field, that upgrade is going to do absolutely nothing. Oh, now they have 7 more.
He is going to actually need, so he does have those 7 Hydralisks on the way, and that's going to be really important in picking off this one Void Ray that does exist right now. As you know, the Void Rays, when they get charged up, especially on roaches, they're going to do a lot of damage. And just a lot,
3 force fields were thrown down, weren't able to trap a single unit. And those sentries need to start landing those force fields to really do damage. And as we talked about a little bit, Rambus has now started to make this little wall and throw down a cannon, and even mining at this proxy third.
There's actually 2 Zealots, and actually, wow, even more Zealots being warped in to harass the 4th of Murazor, and it looks like it's actually probably going to go down. I'm not sure if Murazor is going to save it in time. Oh no, he almost start targeting down the proxy pylon, and it's going to be really close to see if he does save it, and it goes down.
It just falls, but
hurt.
But now Rambus saw that his entire army was up by the 4th position, so now Rambus is pushing in directly in the front, and he will get flanked a little bit, but some good force fields will annihilate or not have this army participate at all, and Murazor is looking really bad right now.
Rambus is just going to go straight into the main, where all of the tech structures are for, actually, well, not too many tech structures, but the lair, which is going to be really important. It's probably going to go down, as well as the spawning pool, actually.
And Murazor decided that he was going to counter push and spotted that the proxy third was right there. I'm wondering if Murazor is going to decide to do a base race right now, but with the amount of proxy pylons that are still fairly around the base, this is going to be a very tricky situation for Murazor to win this game.
Yeah, I know we were talking about base trade scenarios in the pregame, but you know, this wasn't exactly the scenario that we were talking about, as there were no mutas in this game. But it looks like Murazor is actually going to lose out on a lot of these units. I'm not sure if he's going to actually be able to hold this, and or if he'll be able to win this base race.
No.
As Rambus has a pretty good wall in his natural. It's going to be pretty hard to break.
Oh, and Rambus even threw down some force fields over these eggs, so as soon as the units pop, that they will be force fielded in, but the force fields run out by the time the Hydralisks finish up. And Murazor is starting to break into the natural now of Rambus, but again, I'm really worried about these proxy pylons, and actually Murazor is throwing down some hidden hatcheries, so we are seeing this very aggressive base race. The only advantage that Murazor has is that he has +2 with his units, while rather than Rambus only having +1 on ground.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that it looks like Rambus does have a bit more of money saved up just to do these additional warp-ins. We can see that he did warp in a couple of more Zealots, and every single unit, especially in a base trade situation, really makes a difference.
Those Hydras have done absolutely nothing, and that's where all the minerals from Murazor went, which is going to be extremely painful as it comes down to armies fighting each other.
Murazor actually just 2 minerals away from potentially having enough for another hatchery. That's really painful, guys.
But a hatchery is up, and he can be mining out of, he's not supply blocked.
Doesn't have any drones right now either. He needs to remake more drones if he wants to start mining.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, to make drones.
Oh, yeah.
And now these armies may have to collide right here and now. I mean, luckily, Murazor knows where Rambus is, but if he doesn't win against this army and take out that Void Ray more specifically, as these Hydras are taking more and more damage, then these Void Rays will be able to...
So that's going to work in Murazor's favor. It's actually going to be a pretty close battle, but I think that Rambus is actually going to win out on this.
Yeah, that Void Ray just fully charged has done so much damage and now finally falls, and Rambus just has way too much army supply. Sorry I had the production tab open for so long. We have 8 Stalkers versus exactly 9 Overlords right now, so this is looking very grim for Murazor. And there we have it, the GG.
Yeah, a very interesting and close base race. Wow, wasn't actually expecting that, especially with 2 fairly not exactly super mobile armies.